Okay, so hi Dimrao and Tomoki again. Thank you for joining for object-oriented programming in Python for our weekly study jams. And this is the final week of an adventurous game development using Python and basic concepts of classes, methods, objects, attributes, and so on. Last time we had created characters. We created the character class with the enemy subclass, but we have encountered some errors, which I found a way how to overcome. And I'm going to share with you how I did this. So this may be one of the reasons we had this problem. And I'm going to share my screen. Oops. So last time I was running all programs in terminal, and I tried to run this program in Atom application, but it was the same error, like super takes at least one argument and so on. And I Googled the problem and I found that actually this problem appears because of the version of the Python that I use. So in Mac, the standard Python version is 2 or 2 point something, but the tutorials and the super format that we use is intended for Python 3. But although there are some solutions for Python 2, nothing worked for me. But I want to share with you how I usually overcome this problem. So this is not the first time I have this problem. When I use, when I do some programming stuff for my studies, I sometimes need to download like scripts and run on my computer, and there is an error because they use libraries of different versions. And for this, we can create virtual environments. I'm not sure if Tomoki, you already know, or Dimaral, but I'm going to just share how I do this. I'll just use the code. I hope you can see it. I'll just use the code that I already wrote. Also increase. Okay. So first of all, we are going to go to our folder. So my folder, the files that I want to run are in the folder documents and then subfolder week 3. And then I'll use this line. So it says source and then the path to my Anaconda. So I'm going to create Anaconda's virtual environment, but there is also Python virtual environment. If you want to use just Python virtual environment, then you need to Google it yourself because this doesn't work on my computer. What works is the Anaconda's virtual environment. And this is the path to it, to activate it. And then when I run this line, I have this, so you can see here, there is, in this line, I have only Aya, my name, and the document name, right? But when I run this line, I activate the virtual environment, and then I have here a base, okay? Now I want to create the name of my virtual environment, which will be like the virtual environment for this folder week 3. What I will use conda create and then a name. So I want here to specify the name of my virtual environment. So it's object-oriented programming environment. And I specify the Python version I want to use, Python 3. Now it will ask us if we want to proceed, and I type Y, yes, and then we created the virtual environment. Now after we created the virtual environment, I need to activate this virtual environment that we created, and I run conda activate, and the name of the virtual environment that I have created, object-oriented programming environment. Now, if I run python main.py, everything works because it should have been working on Python 3. So now if I run this program again, we can just play this around. So we are currently in the kitchen. So I'm going to remind you that we've created rooms and the connections between rooms and specified the direction southwest that connects different rooms. Here we have a kitchen. It's a current room and the description, and then it specifies whether there is another room connected. So there is a dining hall in the south. So it means I need to run south. And when we are in the south, we are then in the dining hall, which is expected. And here is the description, other rooms and their connections. And one more thing that we did last week is we've created a character and placed it in a specific room, which is a dining hall here. And this is a Dave. Dave is here. It's a smelly zombie. So it's a just description of the zombie. If I want to go next to the west, for example, it's a ballroom and so on. I'm going to okay, so I typed Control-C to exit this game. Just this is how I got to exit this game. Hi, Abdullah, thank you for joining. I just explained how did I overcome this problem we've encountered last week. So this is what I have, my updates from the last week. What we want to cover today is the last session. So we want to expand our knowledge on concepts of object-oriented programming. And the first thing that I want to share with you is the concept of different types of variables, or I should say attributes. So previously we have, okay, we created a class, for example, like this one. Can you see it? My class. And we wrote the constructor, which is like a group or a folder, or I should say like a, yeah, maybe it's a group of attributes or variables that a class can use, right? And you can see here that this constructor has 3 different attributes, which are different by the absence or presence of 1 or more, like 2 underscores. This specifies the type of the attribute, which can be public, protected, or private. What it means, public is when you can use or alter the attributes by the class or outside the class. Protected, it means you can modify these attributes by the class or object, and private, that you can only modify it with the class. Usually we use public attribute, so this is familiar for you. How did we use this? How did we use these? I'm trying to find what I have prepared. So, okay, so I'm a little bit confused with the folders I created. So how did we use this before? We just, so we just created the object and then we called this attribute, right? Now, okay, so this is the code for the previous study jam. And Okay. Let's go to the next example. So I'm just wanted to say, so here is the instance variables, right? Instance attributes. So they are used or created by the class, and you can modify them, the value of the attribute, you can modify for different objects, right? For example, imagine I and Dimaral has a notebook, and if I wrote something in the notebook, Dimaral's notebook will be empty, right? It doesn't change. But we can also create a variable outside of a constructor, which means it will be, if we modify it, it will store this information and used by all instances of the objects, right? For example, here in the my class, we create the variable, class variable outside the constructor, which is my class variable, which is now equal to 0, but we can, related to our game, we can create a variable that, for example, calculates the number of rooms that we create when we call the when we create the instance of a class. For example, here in this example, we can add a little bit of lines to calculate the number of rooms, right? For example, I should say room dot number of rooms. I hope you can see. Okay, and equal to 1. Also, let's say it's equal to 0. And then every time we create the object, we will sum up, or we will add a room, right? So for example, I will create a kitchen and we should update this value to 1. If I create a dining hall, then I will update by 1. So what I will do in this constructor, why I add into the constructor, because every time we create an object, this will be called. This constructor is called, right? So here we have name, description, linked rooms, character. Currently is none, okay? And I will add one more attribute here. It's going to be room, number of rooms, and then just as we learned before, we're just going to use +1 mathematical or arithmetic method, I should say. Okay. And what's the difference between the instant attribute and this class variable is that we call it by self because it relates to the object, right? Object's name, object description. But when we work with class variables, we call a class. Here is class room, right? Okay, this is the difference between instance and class variables. And let's go to the next concept, which is the methods. So before we created methods, like for example, instance methods, and they were called by the objects. For example, this instance method prints the object. And if I want to use this method, I'm going to just create an object of the type my class, and then call this instance method by the dot notation, right? And I refer to the object. This is the object. But we can also create two types of methods called static methods and class methods. And as you may predict or expect, this will be called by the class. So here is, we have the instance method already, and I use this at symbol, or I should say symbol, right? Static method. So this is the property, right? And then the next step is the same. I use the def keyword, static method, and I will print nothing, for example. And here is the class method, which will use the class method, and we refer to the class and print the class. So what's the difference here? We will call our methods using the class. Here is the class static method and the class method. And you can see here, for the static method, we don't use any arguments, but for the class method, we're going to use class method or class argument. And I hope I have a real example, but if not, we will then do some real use or application of the same concept that I explained right now. So here, okay, so here I want to explain another concept. Let me just check if I do everything correctly. By the way, here we had the class variable room, number of rooms. And if you want to access this attribute, we will just use the same method. We will, instead of calling like object dot some attribute, we will call room, which means class dot attribute. So everywhere we have the same notation, or I should say format. So before, you know that this is self refers to the object. That's why when we called in the main.py file, these attributes, we called the name of the object we created and then dot attribute, right? So in the main.py file, when we want to access this attribute, I will call the class, okay, not object. And okay, so after this, I wanted to create with you a file. Let's do it together. So I hope that you also type, but I'm not sure if you just watching me doing, like watching me typing everything. It's better if you type with me. Let's create a new file. I'm going to just remind you how I do this. Let's say this, so I have actually the name of the file, which should be rpg info.py. So what is the aim of this file? So I want to remind you that we have currently, let me just show you maybe. So this is the week 3. So we currently have a main file, right? So this is the file that where we create objects, where we have basic layout of our program. So here is rooms created, the descriptions, links between rooms, and Dave, the character, some conversations, weaknesses we defined, characters, and so on. And we have a while loop, which makes this game available for changing rooms and for extracting a character, okay? Here is our character.py file, which has the class of a character. Maybe not important to show you right now, just a reminder, okay? It has also the enemy subclass, and we have a room class, which defines how to create rooms, okay? Now, what we want to do here, these files, character and rooms, can be modified, right? We can create different rooms, we can create different characters. Here we can create a new file that will be always the same for all the games. Why? Because we create the introduction, intro, and outro for the games, which should stay the same each game. We create a file, then we go to this file and modify it right in this file. I press I to insert, then we create a class, RPG info. And first we define, as usual, a constructor. Here is init, self, always included. Then it's a game title, first attribute here, argument I should say. Like, okay. Self and title. We propose a title. We give a title for this game. And we will have a method welcome that will print us a welcoming statement. Welcome to and title. Okay. Now then we will create a, so we have already a main file, which we will edit right now. So I'm calling escape, :wk to save this file. And we'll go to the main file that we already have and just modify it a little bit. So what we need to add, we need to import the class that we have created just a couple of seconds ago. We import from RPG info, import info, okay. And we will create an object of the RPG info class and give the name for our game. It's going to be Spooky Castle. This is the game, the object, right? RPG info, it's our class. And remember that when we created this, the constructor for this class, we had self and another argument, right? So it means that we should parse some data. This will be the name, title, right? The name of our game, the Spooky Castle. Okay. And if we just leave it like this, nothing will change in our game. To activate the printing action, we need to call a method, right? And how we call a method, we just write the object Spooky Castle dot and the method that we are interested in, which is the welcome method. Welcome. And this method had no arguments. So that's it. So we created the welcoming statement and we can check it. Just we need to escape, :wq to save it. And we will call it probably, let's just add one more thing before checking in this file, RPG info. Let's create a static method. So I'm going to apply the concept that I have just described in the beginning. So the first method is going to be static method. I declare it using this symbol, static method, and then this is going to be the info for our game. So this is the method info, and we will just print information about our game. It's like how was it made? Made using the object-oriented programming game RPG game creator, and I say me. Okay. Okay. All right. I think that's it for now. And let's a little bit modify the main file again. We'll add here, as we use the welcome method, we're gonna use the info method as well. Do you know how to call it? Can you suggest how should I call this method? Should I just write spookycastle.info? What do you think?
Call RPG info.
Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Right. Because this is a class method, and or I should say it's a static method, but we call it using a class. Okay, so when we call this, it will print out our statement, how this was made. And then we can also add one more method, which is the class method. Let's do it again. What I did. One more editing, okay. Info. We will give credits. So this function will be named credits. And remember, we need to use class as an argument. And then we just print two statements. First is thank you for play. And another is created by, and we want to call an author, but I think I haven't described author yet. Let's call it first and then define it. So we need to define author, and we will define it here. Oh, by the way, why is I here? Or any other name. Yeah, let's do it like this, and then I will show you what we're gonna have next. Okay, so let's go to the main file to use the methods that we just created, and we will add it to the end, maybe, or maybe not. author. So here I'm going to define author. In the example, this is the course that we are learning, right? They use the author, but because we are doing it together, let's say this is the GDSC SOKENDAI, right? We are doing it together, and we're gonna call credits. I have a strange feeling about the author because you can see here we are changing the value, right? So I hope it will work, and then I'll explain to you about how to change values, about the getters and setters, and how we work with this. Let's try to just save this. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. Let's run it. And I need to activate my conda file. I close it. All right. Let's try to, okay. Let's try to. Will I retrieve this? Okay, yep. So this is the line that we need to use to activate the virtual environment. Then I already have the virtual environment created, so I don't need to create it. I just need to activate the right virtual environment, which is OOP environment. Let's try to find it. Oops. Okay, I'll just type it. OOP. So here it was base. Now we are here in the virtual environment that uses Python 3. And we just call again, as usual, main.py. Okay, we don't have any problems right now. And we see already the information that we have entered, which is the welcoming statement, the credits, who did this, right? Thank you for playing, created by GDSC SOKENDAI. Okay, awesome. We can even try to play this game. Everything is fine. Let's exit this game. Abdullah has a question. So static method and class method bound to class, not the object. Right. Yes. And when to use static method and class method. So, okay. I expected this question, and just a minute ago, I was thinking about the answer. Let me a little bit think about. So this is the purpose of this example, for example, yeah, we created the intro to the game, which will be always the same, and the method that we call is called by any how to say instances of the game, right? Every time we create this game, this, not maybe this, but the printing statements that we created will be always the same. For the methods that we create, the instance methods, we are modifying them, or we are usually using them specifically to the one instance, which may differ for another instance or another instance. Here, maybe the simplest answer is that it is to create like a general or standard methods that are used by all instances of the class. And let's say, let's try to maybe retrieve more information from the course itself. I think this is how I understand maybe the simplest explanation. Yeah, so they say static and class methods are useful if you want to create a function that is the same for all objects within a class. And we use this to create welcome and outro for the game, which stays the same. What do you think might be other, for example, in our game, what could be other examples? How can we use these class or static methods? Maybe to create a common path or common fate for the games, for example, which will not be altered based on the character, for example, or based on who will be playing this game, like each time. By the way, I just noticed Ray also joined this study jam. Hi, Ray. I'm not sure when did you join, and do you grasp what we are doing right now? If you have any question, please ask. Abdullah, did I answer a little bit of your question? Is it clear? Okay, thank you. Okay, so this was the example that we have included in our game. Let's go to the next concept. So before we had the getters and setters to work with attributes, right? We used setters to set the value for the attribute and getters to retrieve these attributes. This is the just reminder how we did it before. And we called setters and getters again by using the object. But there is another way. So here is the object, my class, and we have attribute equals to 2, which means we changed the value for the attribute, right? And for example, we want to exclude this possibility to alter the value for the attribute. I think they may be talking about the class attribute, which is defined by, not in the constructor, but in the class itself. How can we do this? We use the concepts of properties. Here is the add property, which works as the getter, and add setter, my attribute setter, which works as a setter. In this case, we we restrict the modifications done by the user to alter the attributes. So you can see here, when we include these properties, actually other things stay the same, except that we define like a methods, right? Def my attribute, def definition of the my attribute method, and we return, either return if it's a getter, or we change the value if it's a setter. Here you should note that we include underscore, which means it's a private private attribute. Okay, and an example, how can we use it? Here is my attribute setter, and we say if, for example, the value that the user enters is negative, then it will be the invalid value. We will print this statement. Otherwise, we will set this value that a user enters as the attribute value. And if we want to get this value, we will use the add property, and we will first convert our value which was an integer, to the string, and then we will return this string. Okay, this is example. So here is the end of the concepts that are included in this course, the main and basic concepts. And we have 15 minutes, and I think it's enough time for us to actually try and elaborate more on the game. So we will use the steps suggested by this course. Let me find it. Or maybe, okay, actually there is no steps, but like ideas what we can do. And let me just try to find it. Okay. So we are finishing the game. Okay. Do you know how to, do you see this folder, I hope? The page, okay. So we know what you need to know to create a really nice game. You need to know about how to create a class consisting of the attributes, different types of attributes, right? Public, that we created 3 weeks. All these 3 weeks, we created the public attributes, instance attributes. You can also create private or restricted. Is it restricted attribute? You can also define the action on these attributes by creating a method, and you can also use getters and setters to work with the attributes, create the class methods, static methods, or instance methods. And using the concept that we learned before on the basic data structures and other things of Python, you can create a really nice game similar to what we have done before. So as you already saw, we had the rooms. We can move through these rooms. We can encounter a character. We can fight with this character and win if we have the right strengths against the character's weaknesses. And what they suggest is to use all the material that we've learned so far to challenge ourselves and create a more fulfilling game. So they suggest about 4 challenges. The first is to create an item. So it means we will create a new class and we will assign this item to the room. And then when we go through these rooms, we will, so it's like a treasure hunt. We will just seek for this item, and it's up to you. You may, I don't know, like create a statement that, okay, you found this treasure or something else. So maybe you can, after finding this item, you want to take it with yourself. So it means the item should move through rooms, right, with you. So it's another challenge for you. But this actually only depends on item class. So if you define the class, basically this challenge is done. Another thing is you can create a backpack to allow to store items. So I think this is related to the first challenge. Once you've found this item, you can take it with you in the backpack. And they just give you a small hint that you can create a list, an empty list, and just move everything that you want in this backpack. So it can be this item or any other stuff that you find in the room or you store in the room. The challenge 3 is to choose, so you can specify maybe what type of items you will choose. So it's up to you. You can create a really nice game where player have different like options, and based on this choice, you will fill in your backpack. And finally, another thing is you can create the game based on different characters. So far we had a character and the bad character enemy, but you can find any other, you can create any other classes or subclasses to the character class. For example, like your, I don't know, accompanied person, like a doctor or something else. And I want to challenge everyone here in this study jam. So we have Tomoki, Jimara, Abdullah, and Ray. Would you be interested in creating your game and maybe having a demo, maybe next week or in 2 weeks? So if you were following these tutorials, maybe you already have this code. If you have not, then maybe I can just share with you this. Okay, so I already saved it, right? I can share with you this like a starter code, right? So that you can maybe build upon it. I will share in this dialogue here in the chat. Week 3. Can I actually upload it here? Nope. How about, okay, individual, I can send you this file like this. If you're interested, please, oh, zip it, right. Thank you. Thank you, Abdullah. Yeah, I need to zip it. But okay, so I can zip it, but let me just, yeah, compress it. I'm going to just send you one by one, because just there is only 4 files. I think I have some extra files here not related to this game. A little bit messy. I'm sorry. Yeah, but I also I will try by the end of the study jam to also zip files. But if it's fine for you, please download these 4 files. So it's like a starter code for you. And how do you find this idea to have like a demo day in 1 or 2 weeks? Do you think 1 week is enough for you, or 2 weeks? And for participation, I can offer you a GDC merch. So actually I had, thanks to our manager, Reisa, and all the team of our community for preparing GDC merch, and I have received it maybe a couple of weeks ago. So it's available for 100% in Japan. So it means I can ship to you anytime you provide your full address. And this is like a little bit of a price, like a small price for you for completing, first of all, basics of Python, because without the basics of Python, it would be difficult for you to grasp object-oriented programming, right? You have also finished this OOP course in 4 weeks, right? So another win for you. And moreover, just looking at me coding, it's not that cool, right? If you have your own game, it means you actually learned something. So it's like a confirmation you did something. Because if you say like, oh, I was learning and nobody will understand it. It means show me what have you learned. So I think it's a really nice opportunity for you to, how to say, finish this chapter. Okay, so what do you think? Would you like to participate in this? And if you're interested, what time for you works best? Like 1 week, 2 week, or maybe 3 weeks? What do you think? And Jimaral, I can also ship to you, I think, in Korea, not difficult. And Ray, I'm not sure where are you based. Like, what country are you from? Philippines, right? But if you're interested, if you want to participate, I think it's not a problem to ship abroad. If you're interested to finish this project, let me know in the comments. Just unmute yourself. Don't make me feel awkward.
Maybe 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
Mm.
It's like I don't know how it's called. Like more time. So the basics. Oh, I see, a lot of money. Yeah, I'm determined. Okay, so maybe we can create other means of like prizes. Okay, 2 weeks. Tomoki, are you interested to create a game? And once we create this game, first of all, we will have this demo day, right? And we also will upload it to GitHub and share it like in your, I don't know, social media or LinkedIn or anywhere. So you can just showcase your great effort. 2 weeks, okay? Abdullah, is it okay for you, Tomoki?
Yes, okay.
Awesome, awesome. Then I think it's going to be what day? So in 2 weeks, we're gonna have a demo day. Then I will just plan a demo day, maybe with some other cool activities. Okay, and please feel free to add any other ideas to your game, not even this one, like challenges that I mentioned here. You can create any other awesome things. And okay, I think I never shared maybe, or I forgot to share this course with you. What's cool here is that if you log into this course, it's free for 4 weeks, which means it's available for you for 4 weeks, enough time to cover again these concepts. And you can also see example solutions here to inspire yourself or to get inspired, or but don't copy, okay? Because I know the solutions and it won't be interesting. And so as you can see here, we need to share our work, okay? This is our goal, to share what we have done together. Okay, thank you everyone for joining, and I hope to see you next week. And in 2 weeks, we're gonna have a demo day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.